Lonnie Payne here with another Fiero video for you, but this video also can be applied to any car. The instrument needles in my Fiero are faded yellow. The original color was a orange color, as in most Pontiacs, but over time the suns fade them to pretty much yellow. So I've come up with an easy way to put that factory look back in your needles and make them look good again. So if you're ready to take something that looks like this, turn it into something that looks like this, let's go. I have 3 instrument clusters, and I took the best needles off of all of them and put them in the car. So the speedometer and tachometer actually have some orange left. They're still a little bit faded, but they have some color. But then the fuel gauge, temperature gauge, and then the 2 rally gauges, you can see their needles are fairly yellow. So that's why I decided I want them all to look like they're supposed to, like factory orange. So that's why I'm doing this process. Now for my particular car, which is a Fiero, the needles are painted on the underside and the plastic pointer is clear on the top. So if you're going to do it like the factory did it, you have to take the pointers off. And in order to do that, you'll need something like this, which is a tester signal generator that the factory used and mechanics used. You can hook these 2 leads up to gauges, and based on the ohm setting you set in, it displays a certain amount on the instrument. For instance, if you have 0 ohms hooked to the fuel gauge, it reads empty. If you have 90 ohms, it reads full. So by doing that, when you place the needle back on, you can use this to make sure it's in the right spot. And then the speed signal, 0 to 54, you use that particular button to work with the speedometer and the tachometer on this particular car. The other way to do it is you would just have to put the gauges on, turn the instruments on, and then try and adjust them to make sure they're where they need to be. This actually makes it a lot easier. I bought this off eBay. So your car may be different. You'll have to figure out how you want to do that, but that's the way I'm going to do it in this particular instance. Okay, once again, this is a donor instrument cluster. I have a couple of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these needles off. Then I'll put these needles on the actual car gauge. And the way in the Fiero, the way they are is these things just pop off. So you can just pull this thing off. You can see it's just a little pin down there, so there's no way to know exactly where you put it back on, where it needs to be. So that's where the calibration comes in. But once you take the needle off, you can kind of see that's a fairly faded. The cap comes off too. So the little black cap comes off, and now you can kind of see what the original color was under there. It's supposed to be an orange color, but they're faded, and so that's why we're put that color back so everything looks factory. So I'll end up taking all the needles off, all the caps off. So this is the only part that I'll be working with. Alright, so I got the 4 needles off, all the caps off. So we'll take the caps, put them in a safe place, and all we'll be working with is the needles themselves. Alright, just to kind of show you how the illumination on these needles work, I've taken a piece of poster board and I put a hole in it, and I've just put the indicator in there. So you can see the bottom's just pulling or showing through the bottom there. And like I said, you can see the clear area that's supposed to grab the light. You can see the little angle there that's supposed to take it and magnify it and change directions with it. So we'll shine a light up from the bottom, and you'll see how this needle illuminates. Alright, so we turn the light on, and you can see the light just travels down, and it's using what's painted on the back as the reflection, and that paint on the back is what's faded out. Okay, hopefully this shows up well, but the needle is clear needle with just paint on the very back, so you can see the paint that's on this back surface. And you can see from the side it's perfectly clear, and it's clear on top, but as you turn the needle, you're seeing the paint that's actually on the bottom. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and take this paint off So that's the plan. I'm going to start with 600 grit sandpaper, see if I can just sand that paint off just real lightly, being careful. These needles are fairly thin, so we don't want to break it, but we're going to give it a shot and see what we can come up with here. I'm using 1000 grit. It's not quite a flat surface. It's a little bit curved, so hoping the softer sandpaper gets in the center a little bit better. It's coming off though. For a little more work, I think I got a really nice result. I ended up going with, after the original sandpaper, I've got a 320 grit pad, I think a 600 grit pad, 3000 grit pad, and a 5000 grit pad. And these are soft, and so that kind of allowed me to get into the center groove, which is curved in a little bit. So I was having trouble getting some of that paint out. But now you look at it, and it's a really nice, it's clear. You can kind of see the black beneath it. And I'm not sure how good that shows up on camera, but I think a really nice result. And like I said, that little orange right there is not a problem, because once you put the little cap on, you don't see it at all. So I think it's going to be really nice. So we're going to get, all right, so we got the needle all sanded, clean. Originally I was going to paint these on the underneath side, but I've come up with a better idea, I think, and it's much easier. I do a lot of vinyl work, and so I'll put the links in the description where to get this, but this is just some vinyl. And you got to make sure you get vinyl that is the color on the sticky side as well as the top side. For instance, I had bought some fluorescent orange, but if you look, it's white on the bottom, so it doesn't work. So I've just cut it into little pieces. This is a little bit darker orange. This is the one I'm gonna try. And I peeled that off. I flipped it over, and it's sticky side up on the edge of this glass. And the reason it's on the edge of the glass because the circle or the cylinder part is on the edge. So I want to get the color all the way in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this right down on there, using the glass as kind of a push it up against the glass, and then just push it straight down on that color. And then we're going to get just push it down, get a really good adhesion. Then we take a brand new X-Acto knife, and we're just going to trim out the edge. Sometimes it's kind of hard to work with this stuff when you got a camera in the way. Right at the very end there, didn't get quite a good cut. All right. Got a colored needle now. So you can see it's clear, just like it was. As you turn it, you get the color. And then what we're going to do is, to make sure we don't get any bleed through, because it's going to be on a black background, we don't want the color getting any shade, darker shade because of the black background. We're going to do the exact same thing with a white piece of vinyl, so it'll have a white backing just like the factory needle did. Alright, we got the white piece of vinyl on now, so we're going to take our needle and we're going to do the exact same thing. Put it right straight down on there. And it doesn't matter if you get the part next to the mounting cylinder perfect, because remember, you got a little cap that hangs over a little ways, so if it's not perfect, you'll never see that. You kind of got a little bit crooked there, but you won't see it. And you need to use a new knife. And then also just, you want to make sure you don't actually get into the plastic of the needle any. Sorry about that, trying to. Do the cut right, you just lift it out. You can kind of see, you don't see any of that vinyl on the edges. It's perfectly clear, but you get that nice rich orange color, just like a factory needle. And that was it. And we'll do a little bit of a light test, see how she looks. Okay, so here's a comparison of the two pointers. The top one is the faded original, and the bottom one is the one we fixed with the new orange. So now we're going to do a light test, see how it looks at night. Oh, I think that looks really good. Nice orange color. I think it'll match the car pretty good. All right, so now that I got a finished needle, I just got to do 5 more of them. Okay, all 6 needles are done. Now it's ready to put them on the gauges. All right, the first gauge I'm going to do is the battery gauge, and it's pretty simple because you can take it, and this one actually has a spot where it'll rest, so you can either mark it on here and put the needle back that way, or you can hook the 12 volts up to it, and it should indicate 12, and leave the power supply hooked up to it. Put your new needle on indicating 12, and you're good to go. So I took my multimeter and I calibrated my power supply to where it's perfectly 12 volts. So we'll look at it. So turn it on, and sure enough, the needle goes right to 12 volts. So we'll pull this needle off, have the power on, and put that needle back on when it says 12 volts. All right, so that needle's off. Put the power on here. So take the new needle. It's now just loosely sitting on there, so we'll put it right in the right spot. And then we'll push it down, and that'll kind of lock it into place. Okay, so we'll take the power off. Back to the rest position, power back on. Right to 12 volts. And so now we'll go work on the oil pressure gauge. All right, so here's the oil pressure. I've got my test kit hooked up here so I can turn it from 0 all the way up. And of course, because I think it's 10 psi where the oil pressure light actually goes out. So we'll take this off, put it at 0, and keep it. Okay. Okay. So now we're just gonna get it in the right spot. All right, so there's perfect. 0 max. All right, so now we'll go to the big gauge cluster and get those done. All right, we got them all done. There's the main instrument cluster. There's the rally gauges. I left the glass off of them just so they try and film a little bit better. And just for comparison, that's what the original faded one looked like. Now they're all nice, back to their factory orange. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope this information was useful. You can take those old faded needles and put the color back and make them look factory new. If you like what you see, please like, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.